This is Genesis chapter 29 and verse 20. And it says, And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days for the love he had to her. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakakodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that rule well and teach well. And shalom to the hopeful elect. All right, the Akim and Aquaf scattered around the four corners of the planet Earth. All right, I'm the brother Iraq from GMS Dallas. All right, and this is another lesson through the spirit and power of the Lord. All right, and I'll entitle it, Love This Truth Like Jacob Loved Rachel. All right, love this truth like Jacob loved Rachel. All right, and this lesson was inspired by Genesis, the 29th chapter. All right, when you read about our forefather Yaquab, all right, known as Jacob in the English, right, and you read about, his history, his comings and goings, all right, through the spirit, all right, this is our very same forefather, all right, whose name was changed, all right, from Yaquab, right, which means supplanter, to Israel, all right, or Yashar Allah, all right, he is a prince of the power. Okay, and when you go into the history of Jacob, it's very evident to the spirit that Jacob was a very he was a very ambitious, he was a very hardworking man. All right, and he had high goals. All right, and high standards for himself, in which he was willing, to work. All right, he was willing to work. He was willing to put his hand to the plow. All right, and do the things that he needed to do. All right, in order to get where he wanted to go. All right, and the account of our forefather Jacob is a great example of what hard work looks like. All right, and specifically, when you read about this account in Genesis 29, all right, in which he served his uncle Laban, all right, for 14 years only to obtain Rachel. Okay, and the spirit, this is an example of the spirit that we should have. All right, serving Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. All right, so that we can obtain the kingdom. All right, so that we can obtain wisdom. Right, which wisdom? All right, Sophia. All right, that's the real woman. All right, that we should be seeking for at all times. All right, because as the scriptures say, all right, I want to say this: the desire of wisdom, all right, leadeth to a kingdom, as the scriptures say. Okay, so let's start here. We're gonna get a few precepts. All right, this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6 and verse 20. It says, "Therefore, the desire of wisdom bringeth to a kingdom." Okay, so desiring wisdom, desiring Sophia, all right, which really all roads lead to Yahushua, all right, because Yahushua is the embodiment of wisdom. Okay, but that desire, that longing leads to a kingdom. All right, and remember the Lord said the kingdom of heaven is within you. All right, so for brothers, all right, that want women, all right, because we all want women, right? We love women. All right, and being in this flesh, we're programmed to want to procreate. All right, we're programmed to want to be fruitful and multiply. All right, and the elect, all right, the remnant, those who are delivered through the Lord, will ultimately be able to fulfill that desire. All right, and basically reproducing, all right, the nation of Israel and the kingdom of heaven. All right, the scriptures say in Isaiah chapter 60 and verse 22, all right, one shall become 1,000. All right, one is going to become 1,000. All right, meaning that every Israelite man on that side is going to have hundreds right? However many children he want to have. All right. So that's what's coming. All right. But in order to get there, all right, we have to go through the process, all right, and progress of basically prophecy. All right. We have to be refined. We have to be tried. We have to go without for particular seasons. All right. Let me continue on in this. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6 and verse 21. It says, if your delight be then in thrones and scepters, right? Because that's what Jake ultimately wants. If you're in the right spirit, as an Israelite man, you should be desiring sovereignty. All right. You should be desiring rulership. Okay. And there's levels to rulership. Right? You have rulers over, hundreds of thousands. You have rulers over 5,000. You have rulers over 100. All right. But ultimately, if you are an Israelite man, you were created to be a ruler because you have to rule your house. All right. You have to rule your house and you have to rule your spirit. Okay. So when it says thrones and scepters, don't let that, that's not just talking about positions of power. It is talking about positions of power. All right. But it starts with the ruling over your spirit. All right. You start there. Okay. So let's read this again. Wisdom of Solomon 6 and 21. It says, if your delight be then in thrones and scepters, O ye kings of the people, honor wisdom, that ye may reign forevermore. As for wisdom, what she is and how she came up, I will tell you and will not hide mysteries from you. All right. And that's pretty much the point on that. Okay. Because when you read this chapter, Solomon is basically breaking down wisdom. All right. And wisdom is the principal thing. All right. That we're supposed to be looking to obtain. Okay. So I want to get another precept. All right. Let's switch gears real quick. All right. And let's go back to Genesis chapter 29. All right. And we're going to read up a little bit. All right. And get a little bit of this account. Okay. So this is Genesis chapter 29. All right. And I'm going to start at verse 1 and we're going to read down. All right. The subheader of the chapter is Jacob meets Rachel. Okay. All right. Genesis 29 and 1. It says, then Jacob went on his journey and came into the land of the people of the east. And behold, and he looked, and behold, a well in the field, and lo, there were 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks, and a great stone was upon the well's mouth. And thither were all the flocks gathered. And they rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the sheep, and put the stone again upon the well's mouth in his place. And Jacob said unto them, my brethren, whence be ye? And they said, of Haran are we. And he said unto them, know ye Laban the son of Nahor? And they said, we know him. And he said unto them, is he well? And they said, he is well. And behold, Rachel his daughter cometh with the sheep. Okay. All right. And that's the thing. When you read this account, okay, again, Jacob, stumbles upon, he approaches flocks of sheep. All right. And you can liken that flock of sheep unto us in these times. All right. The body of believers. All right. Who are ultimately following after Yahushua. All right. And when you read that account, as it said, those flocks of sheep had gathered around a well. All right. And a well is essentially a primary source. It's a source of water. All right. You don't have life without water. All right. And the scriptures liken what to water? The scriptures liken this word unto water. All right. And then the scriptures liken Yahushua unto the word. Okay. So Yahushua is our source of water. The same way that well that the sheep were gathered around. All right. We're gathered around, a water source. That's us through the Spirit in these times. Okay. So continuing on, this is Genesis chapter 29 and verse 7. It says, and he said, lo, it is yet high day, neither is it time that the cattle should be gathered together. Water ye the sheep and go and feed them. Right. So Jacob, our forefather, all right, was basically giving them advice. All right, he was imploring them, all right, to go ahead and let the sheep gaze, all right, pasture, go eat, all right, because normally, you let your sheep, all right, eat, roam, gaze, all right, while it's daytime, all right, and then you water them, at the end, of the day when the sun is going down, when it's cooler, all right. So let's keep reading. This is Genesis chapter 29 and verse 8. It says, "And they said, we cannot until all the flocks be gathered together, until they roll the stone from the well's mouth. Then we water the sheep. And while he yet spake with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she kept them." All right. And this is a literal account. All right. But Rachel keeping her father's sheep, you can liken that to wisdom. All right. Scriptures talk about how wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. Okay, wisdom is a defense mechanism set up from on high. All right, when we about wisdom in the scriptures, okay, as the scriptures say, wisdom is more, excuse me, those scriptures mixed up, right, where it talks about more moving than any motion. Let me see if I can get that real quick. All right, there's a couple precepts I want to grab. All right, and this is Wisdom of Solomon 7:24. Yep, it says, "For wisdom more moving in emotion, she passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness." So wisdom is a spirit. Wisdom is an active force. All right, moving and overseeing, the flock. All right, and it's accessed through the fear of the Lord. The fear of the Lord is wisdom. Okay, you don't get protection without fearing Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Okay, so let's get another precept. All right, let's get this real quick. All right, bear with. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 2. What do I want to get this? Let's see. This is Proverbs, chapter 4 and verse 5. It says, "Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not, neither decline from the word of my mouth. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she shall keep thee." Okay, so wisdom is likened unto a woman. All right, because when a woman, right, that's really for you, when you got a woman that's really for you and has your best interest, all right, she's a defense. She's a lookout. All right, like if you ever had a cousin, right, and in this actual account of Genesis 29, Jacob and Rachel are cousins. All right, through Nahor. All right, Abraham's brother. Okay, but if you've ever actually, been fortunate enough to, meet your extended family and actually have a positive, relationship, when a woman is really, for you and has your best interest, they're a lookout. Okay, they help you. They give you pointers. They give you advice. All right, they tell you things to watch out for, like other women, right? And that's what wisdom is for us. So let's read that verse again. With Proverbs 4:6, it says, "Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she shall keep thee." Wisdom is the principal thing. All right, and the principle, something that's principle. All right. Matter of fact, let's get this word in the blue letter. All right, the word principle, ra'ashiath. All right, which the root word ra'ash means head. Right. So essentially, this word is saying, because the head is the top of your body. All right. So when you get this word outline of usage, it says first, beginning, best, chief. All right. Strong's definition, it says the first in place, time, order, or rank. So wisdom is the principal thing. Okay. That's our number one priority. Okay. That's what makes us friends with Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. All right. That's how we preserve ourselves in this thing. The Lord sending us wisdom, giving us wisdom. Okay. So let's go back to Genesis chapter 29. All right. This is Genesis chapter 29 and verse 10. And it says, and it came to pass when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted up his voice and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother and that he was Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. Right? So Jacob ended up taking initiative and feeding the sheep, watering the sheep. All right, while you had the actual herdsmen of Laban, all right, they were waiting around until everybody was lined up. They were going to wait. Okay, but Jacob saw that the opportune time to act was right then and there. All right, the sheep need to be fed now, and then on top of that, you had Rachel approaching. All right, so Jacob through the spirit, if you visualize this account, okay, Jacob was he was flexing. All right, Jake was working, man. Okay, and that's how you got to be in this truth. All right, you do it with meekness and you do it with fear, right? But you also do it with confidence. You move with confidence, man. And when the spirit is on you to make the right move, you got to make it, because wisdom is watching. All right, and when you please the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, when you please them, okay, they give you more wisdom. They pour into you more. All right, so Jacob saw the opportune time, all right, to make a move, and he made it. All right, and Jake is quick to do that for an actual woman in the world, right? Jake will do extra push-ups, right? Jake will spend $50 to $100 on a scent, right? Jake will drive across town, all right, for a woman in the world that, you know, more times than not, you know, ain't anything anyway. Most of these women out here ain't women. All right. And Jake will break their back for a woman in the world, but will be half-assed for Yahweh Bashem Yahushua in the spirit, which is offensive. All right. Dudes like that ain't gonna make it. All right. If you care more about impressing these women in the world, if you care more about pursuing these women in the world, you ain't gonna make it. You're gonna be destroyed. All right. And that goes for everybody, starting with myself first and foremost, man. Gotta have your priorities straight. Right? Gotta have your thinking cap on, man. We'll get the women, we'll get everything that we want, the intents and the desires of our heart. We'll get that in the kingdom after Yahushua gets his glory. All right? Let's keep reading. This is Genesis chapter 29 in verse 12. It says, and Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother and that he was Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. All right, so they were related. Okay, again, they're family, they're cousins. All right, and when you read about wisdom in the scriptures, wisdom is likened unto our kinswoman. Okay, this is Proverbs chapter 7 and verse 4. It says, say unto wisdom, thou art my sister, and call understanding thy kinswoman, that they may keep thee from the strange woman, and from the stranger which flattereth with her words. All right, so again, all right, this wisdom that Yahweh Bashem Yahushua has given us is a defense mechanism. It's a protection. All right, and that protection is needed, right, because Esau's enchantments, Esau's left hand magic, all right, is at an all-time high. all-time high. Your thoughts are being constantly invaded. There are being thoughts that are not yours being put into your head. Okay, the spiritual demon Satan is going in right now, right? And you gotta be protected. We need protection, man. Scriptures say, keep thine heart with all keep thine heart, all right, with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. So we need this, but you gotta pursue it. You gotta want it, all right. And that's what this lesson is about. Okay, so let's go back to Genesis chapter 29. Okay, this is Genesis chapter 29 and verse 13. And it came to pass when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob his sister's son, that he ran to meet him, and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. And he told Laban all these things. And Laban said unto him, Surely thou art bone of my bone and my flesh. And he abode with him the space of a month. And Laban said unto Jacob, Because thou art my brother, shouldest thou therefore serve me for naught? Tell me, what shall thy wages be? And Laban had two daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. All right. So, right, Jacob, he was his works were rewarded. All right, his works were rewarded. His work wasn't for anything. Okay, and that's what we got to remember. Okay, we're not doing this for no reason. Let's get a reset real quick, man. Okay, because just operating on the daily. All right, waking up, going to work, going through the daily motion of life. All right, you can get trapped in the moment. All right, and Satan will make you forget that everything that you do, all right, is going to be rewarded. Okay, the Lord is just. The Lord ain't operating like fucking Esau, man. All right, well, you get paid every week if you're lucky, right? You're supposed to get paid every day, but you get paid every week if you're lucky, right? Some individuals may get paid every day, which is a blessing. Some people get paid every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks, right? Once a month, right? This ain't that's this system. That's Edomite. That's the Edomite way, man. Unjust, laws and decrees. Okay, let's read this. This is Hebrews 6:10. It says, For God is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love, which ye have showed toward his name, and that ye have ministered to the saints and do minister. Okay? So Yahweh Shemel Shai sees everything we're doing. The angels see everything we're doing. And we're going to be rewarded. It's all going to be a part of your resume, your legacy in the kingdom to come, your story. All right? Every brother's going to have a story. Every brother's going to have, those works in which his legacy is built upon, following him in the kingdom. And with that is going to come, all right, the access to Yahweh Shem Yahushua and the power that's going to get you the glory, that's going to get you the women, that's going to get you everything. All right, let's go back to Genesis. This is Genesis chapter 29 and verse 16. It says, And Laban had two daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored, right? So Rachel was drop-dead gorgeous. All right, you got to ask yourself, how beautiful would a woman have to be for you to serve 14 years for her? All right, ask yourself, the last woman you saw, the most beautiful woman you saw recently, all right, if you had to sign a 14-year labor contract, all right, to obtain her, would you do it? All right, and I can't speak for every brother, man, but I can speak for myself. And I say, shit, hell no. This truth is the only labor in which I would even contemplate doing something like that. But that shows you that Rachel had to be gorgeous, right? And ultimately, it was the spirit that was on Jacob. All right, because the same way our forefathers were chosen, our foremothers were also chosen. All right, Mary was chosen. All right, you had certain women who were chosen vessels to bring forth, men of the Lord. Okay, so it was the spirit of the Lord that ordained that marriage. All right, the same way how now it's the spirit of the Lord that's ordained this marriage. And if you not of the elect, if you weren't called, right, and the spirit wasn't put on you to endure to the end, you just not gonna do it. And that's a fearful thing. Okay, that's why the scriptures say, give diligence to make thy calling and election sure. All right, and this account is a good example of that, man. 14 years, right? Because when you read the account, Laban, all right, basically deceived our forefather and gave him Leah instead of Rachel. So he had to serve a whole nother 7 years. Okay, and 7 represents completion, by the way. But let's keep reading. It says, verse Genesis 29:18, it says, and Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel thy younger daughter. And Laban said, it is better that I give her to thee than that I should give her to another nation. Abide with me. Right? And that was the mindset. That was the Eastern mindset when it came to arranged marriages. All right? Arranging a marriage between your daughter and another man was a very risky undertaking. So in order to mitigate some of that risk, you marry in the family, or you marry a family that you're intimately familiar with. All right, so that your daughter is being well cared for. All right, or joining unto a house. All right, that's in alignment with your morals and values. All right, this is the proper way things should be done, not like it's done over here in America, man, where it's madness and random and chaos. Okay, this is Genesis chapter 29 and verse 20. Again, and I'll close it with this. It says, and Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days for the love he had to her. All right. And when you go down and you keep reading the account, I encourage you to read it. He ended up having to serve about 14 years. Right. And he did that to get what he wanted. Okay. And that's how we got to be with this truth, with this wisdom. Okay. This is 1 Thessalonians chapter 1 and verse 3. It says, remembering without ceasing your work of faith and labor of love and patience of hope in our Lord Yahushua HaMashiach in the sight of God and our Father. Okay, let's read that again. Okay, it says, remembering, and this is Paul speaking to the church of Thessalonica, the Israelites there, the Israelite foreigners. It says, remembering without ceasing your work of faith. Right? Because when Jacob fulfilled that, he was operating out of faith that Laban would honor his word. All right, in which he violated the first time. But that shows you how much the spirit was on Jake to do that. Right? Imagine being deceived, right? You sign a contract, you think you're going to get paid this, but they're in the fine print, right? You were finagled out of your wages, and they come back to the table and offer you another contract for another 7 years. And at the end of it, you're going to get it, what originally was promised. You would have to have the ultimate faith that, it's just going to happen. You're going to get it. Okay, and then you got to be patient. 7 years is a long time. Okay, so this is 1 Thessalonians 1 and 3. It says, remembering without ceasing your work of faith and labor of love and patience of hope in our Lord Yahushua HaMashiach in the sight of God and our Father. All right, so that's the way in which we ought to be thinking about this thing, man. All right, and Jacob's love for Rachel, willingness to serve Laban for all those years, was a token of what we would have to do now in these times today. All right. So, Lord's willing, this lesson was edifying. Pray, brothers and sisters, got something out of it. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, Bashem Makakodash. Double honors to the elders, apostles, great millstone that rule well, and shalom.